Welcome to another episode of Apex Mountain. This week's actor is Christian Bale. Let's go.
To kill a lot of people.
Welcome back to another episode of Apex Mountain. I am your host, Jacob Lindgren, and with me, as always, is my two friends, Tanner and Zack. How are you two doing?
Doing good, man.
Our first two episodes our last two episodes of Christian Bale. It's going to start with Tanner's pick, The Big Short, and then we're going to end with our Apex pick, The Dark Knight. Then we'll reveal our next coming actor at the end of the episode. Tanner, lead us off with The Big Short.
Yeah, so I picked The Big Short on a whim. I heard it was pretty good. Never saw it before, but it had to do with the '08 stock market, and all three of us kind of lived through that through our parents' eyes, I guess. So being able to hear about it, see what happened and everything was pretty cool to see. It was directed by Adam McKay, who is a comedian. He's done Saturday Night Live. He directed The Other Guys, Anchorman. But he was able to take this movie and kind of dumb down the '08 stock market crash and explain it the way we could understand it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. What about you guys?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. Just like you two, I hadn't seen this movie yet. I had heard good things. I'm glad that we had picked this movie, just something new for us instead of always picking movies we've seen and just being in the same rut. And this is also the one of, I guess technically you could say this about The Dark Knight too, but he's in an ensemble in this. This isn't just him. We're not just watching him on screen for an hour and a half of a 2-hour movie, which I thought was nice. I think we could have got a little bit more out of him, which is a little bit of a critique that I'll bring up later. But I really liked it. What do you think, Zack?
I thought it was great. Honestly, I didn't know what it was about until you picked it, and I looked it up. And honestly, I thought it was going to be kind of boring, but it was great. I was really drawn into it. It was good stuff.
Right. Did you guys know anything? Like, I didn't realize it was McKay that did this movie. And like you said, he did Anchorman and he did a few other things. I think I saw this morning that this was the first film he did without Will Ferrell in it, which I thought was kind of funny. And I couldn't tell that even after reading that by how he directed. It didn't feel like any of those movies, which I guess is a testament to him. I was kind of out on how it was in like the first half hour. The way he filmed was very choppy. He cut early, which I think was the point. It was kind of supposed to get you the sense of uneasy and the sense of rush.
It was supposed to be like a irresponsible type of film.
Right, right. And it just felt, to me, it's starting to give me a headache almost. Like It was just a little too much. And because I could feel that he was trying to do that, I think that in and of itself says it's a little bit of a poor job. I should be in the moment feeling uneasy, not like I feel like he's trying to make me uneasy, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I had some of that in my notes as well. There was points where somebody didn't finish talking and they cut, and they did it on purpose.
Right.
But it felt like immature or
I agree.
Amateur rather, instead of like a professional movie.
I agree. I completely agree. And I think that they did it too many times at the beginning. And it was way too much. You do it 2 times right after each other, I get the point. But like the first 15 minutes felt like a high schooler was making a presentation for school last minute. Yeah. And it felt poorly chopped instead of creatively chopped. But
yeah. So let me ask you guys a question. So a lot of times in this movie, the actors broke the fourth wall where they're still acting, but they turn and look at the camera and talk. Ryan Gosling was almost a narrator in this movie. What did you guys think about that?
Zach?
I liked it for the fact that I'm not the smartest person when it comes to stock markets or the whole situation in '08. So I enjoyed any moment that they could stop and break it down for me without me pausing and trying to like write down some notes and figure things out. So I appreciated it. I don't know how much someone who already knew about it would like it.
Yeah, last week we had Michael Caine narrating. Right?
Michael Caine.
This week, though, we had Ryan Gosling, but he would stop and turn at you. Or we have Selena Gomez turn and look at you.
Right.
Margot Robbie in a bathtub just telling you about, like, oh, what does this mean? Oh, well, here's kind of how we dumbed it down, and they told us how it is.
Right. For me, there was 2 different versions of it in this movie. Well, I would say I'm going to take that back. 3 different versions of it. I liked 2 of them. I didn't like the third one. For one, I like Ryan Gosling turning to the camera. I think he does a great job. He's just so enthusiastic about everything he says, and I think that you just buy in when you see him.
Yep.
And I like that. I like when the main characters broke the fourth wall. I did not like the Margot Robbie tie-in. I thought she was completely pointless.
Yep.
I get why they did it, why she was in a tub, why it was ridiculous. I get that, but I just didn't need it.
Yep.
And I also wasn't super into the blackjack table with
Selena Gomez or
Selena
whatever.
Gomez. It was okay. I think that it was needed at that point in time. I like that Richard Thaler was in it. I guess this is my 20 seconds of dorking out. He's a legendary economist, and he basically revolutionized behavioral economics before he started. Like I have his book, Misbehaving. It's excellent. He's basically the first person to turn from the nerdy book science of economics and look at behavior in people. And I thought him being in this movie that's about the mistakes and the behavior of people on the Wall Street was an excellent idea. So I kind of gave that one a pass, but I liked it better when it was Ryan Gosling than I did when it was just random cameos. It kind of took me out of the movie.
Yeah, my favorite narration part was whenever they explained, I think it was a Selena Gomez one, when she said, we're going to bet on this, and then the person next to them is betting on her bet.
Right.
And then everyone in the crowd ends up betting on each other's bets and stuff.
Right. And you can see how shaky that tower is.
Yeah, looking at that, it makes a lot of sense. If one person goes down, they're all going down.
I totally agree. I think that was an important point. I think it was just how random it was that it was her.
Yeah.
That just completely threw me off.
Oh, definitely.
I liked it better with Ryan. So.
Right. And then the third thing isn't people breaking the fourth wall, but like when they're basically not looking at the camera, but they should be, and they're like, we're going to show you what this is like with a tower of logs, and we're going to show you here's A, here's double A, here's triple A, and they go up the list. I thought that was really good. I liked that a lot. I thought that was the most impactful thing for the audience to understand what was going on.
Yep.
But I think the culmination of all three, it's a fine line between being helpful and just being like, hey, dumbasses, this is what's going on.
Yeah,
kind of thing. I just kind of felt like at certain points in time it was just a touch patronizing.
Right.
Yep. See, for me, I don't think it was at all because I'm an idiot and that kind of stuff. So for me, I was like, oh, please give me another one. Like, help me out here.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad. Like I said, I'm glad we picked this film. So I'll jump into the quotes before we jump around all over the map. I'm going to go with the longest one first. I'm just going to mainly go by the actors' names because there were so many names that I'll get them all mixed up.
Yep.
Pitt was in the ground floor of one of the Vegas casinos, and he says, "Stop dancing. If we're right, people are losing homes, retirement savings. People are losing pensions. You know, this is what I hate about fucking banking. It reduces people to numbers. Here's a number: every 1% of unemployment goes up. 40,000 people die. Did you know that?" And I think that was important in the movie at that moment in time because you were starting to feel for those two 28-year-old guys. Like, yes, it's finally working for them. It's starting to pan out. But you start to lose grasp and you start to almost become on the banker side of things where you're like, nice opportunity, when you should be thinking, holy shit, this is bad for thousands of people.
Yeah.
Thought that was important. And then I just added a bunch of quotes on here that are just silly. It's like someone hit a piñata full of white people that suck at golf when they go to that meeting. If you tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, I have my wife's brother arrested. Look at his eyes. I'll give you a hint. His name is Yang. He won a national math competition in China. He doesn't even speak English. Yeah, I'm sure from math. I have a feeling in a few years we're going to be doing what they always do when the economy tanks. They'll be blaming immigrants and poor people, and then they immediately go into, yep, that's basically what they did. And then the last one I added was, why are they confessing? Well, they're not confessing, they're bragging. Which I thought was pretty good at that point in time in the movie too.
Yeah.
Was there any quotes that you guys liked that I didn't put on there?
Zach?
The confessing one. Yeah, I thought that was funny, especially when you get to talk about Steve Carell. But
yeah, those guys look like a couple of frat guys. I think they kind of made it to that point. I have a couple. The Brad Pitt one, I think you missed one of the more important parts of that is right before that. He says, do you have any idea what you just did? You just bet against the American economy. And they said, well, yeah. And then he goes into the people lose homes, they lose their jobs, they die.
This is bigger than just the bank's wrong and we're right. This
Yep.
is the bank is fucking over tons of people.
Yep.
Right.
Let's see. Mark Braun, which was Steve Carell, says banks have conditioned us to trust them, and what have we got from that? 25% interest rates on credit cards. They have screwed us on student loans, so we can never get out from under. He also says fraud is never overworked. Eventually, things go south. When the hell did we forget all that?
Mm-hmm.
So there was 2 quotes that actually show up on the screen, and they were kind of cool. One of them said, "Truth is like poetry. Most people effing hate poetry."
Right.
And then another one says, "Everyone deep in their hearts is waiting for the end of the world to come." That's kind of powerful if you think.
Yeah,
about
I thought that one was really cool. I thought that was a good one.
Yep.
And I guess those are tags. So when I was looking at the scenes and was trying to look at it from an angle of what my favorite scenes in this movie were, I had kind of a hard time selecting scenes in particular because everything moves so quickly. You would think it would make it easier because I would chop up scenes, but for me, I had a hard time kind of picking my favorite scenes. Tanner, I know that you looked at this one pretty close. What were your favorite scenes?
Yeah. So when Gosling was trying to sell his pitch to Steve Carell and his crew, and they were totally like, what are you getting out of this and everything, and then he was able to show the Jenga board, explaining the A and double A and everything. It kind of had a comedic act to it at that point. What's he say? He says, "What's that smell?" And the guy on the side's like, he says something. He's like,
Money.
Money. And then
he's like, "No, you idiot."
Yeah. And then the guy that's Asian, he's like, "Actually, my name is something." He's like, "I speak perfect English, and I got second in the math competition."
Yeah.
It's like, you're kind of throwing those out there for the comedic side, but
and he needed to, because the movie could easily become dense and hard to watch. And I think it was very smart of him to keep it light at times.
Yeah.
And I was also going to tell you guys too, with that scene and upcoming scenes, Ryan Gosling and that assistant were always kind of together. The one who said money and acted kind of silly.
Yeah.
When they made this movie, he wasn't supposed to have an assistant, but they kept in touch with the real people. And the guy said, why would I give out any paperwork or any cards? I have assistants for that. Like, he's kind of, into himself and like, I have people for that.
Yeah.
So Gosling just pointed at a guy as an extra on the set and said, "Hey, jump in here real quick and we'll try you out."
Really?
And he did well enough that he ended up starting a film career out of just walking on set and being an extra. So I thought that was pretty cool as a little sidebar.
I will say one thing is the actors look just like the people in real life. Like, they made them look very similar.
They are close, especially our guy Bale. He looks pretty close.
So one of the other scenes is Mark Baum, which was Steve Carell, when he's at the Q&A in Vegas, and he's raising his hand, and they're like, well, it's not Q&As, but go ahead. And he says, when do you think it'll hit top 5%? Possibly or probably, I think. And he said, oh, it definitely. He says,
how possible, if not probable.
0%.
Right. Right. 0%, it'll be under 5%.
Yeah, so I think that was a huge moment in the movie to explain, like, dude, you guys are not understanding that this is about to happen.
It also showed his character too, because Gosling, before they walked in there, said, "Hey, dude, chill out. Just keep it cool. Look at the people that you're getting ready to bet against. Learn about them. Just shut your mouth." And as soon as he sits down, he raises his hand twice and makes a scene. It's it's very Carell.
Yeah. And then my final scene was the David versus Goliath moment, where you've got the big banker who keeps saying, I'm still going to be buying these stocks and everything else. And Steve Carell's like, dude, this is getting bad. It's getting worse. And as this is happening, everyone in the crowd's looking at their phones, seeing that the stock is dropping. And
massively.
Yeah. So there was a Q&A from the crowd, and they said, just so you know, this stock pretty much just tanked. And Steve Carell's like, mic drop. He's like, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. What did he say? Was it boom? It was something that made me laugh.
Boom.
Boom. Yeah, there was a couple little scenes I added, but they were more of a humorous angle more so than an impactful angle. I like the pub scene with Brad Pitt. I thought that was fun because he's just sitting there kind of trying to enjoy his life. And it's like this pull between I gave this up to I'm helping these two kids. and he has to make a multi-million-dollar deal on a computer with bad Wi-Fi, and there's people in the pub pissed off about it. I thought that was pretty cool. The SEC girl that they meet by the pool outside of Caesars or wherever, I thought it was just kind of funny at the time,
right?
Because I think she's Gamora in the Marvel movies. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but anyway, I was like watching the scene the whole time, looking at her face, like, is that her? And wasn't really paying attention. But after I gave it a little bit more thought, it is pretty interesting that they're basically saying, yeah, the company that she works for is the people who were supposed to be watching over these banks and aren't. And now she's literally and figuratively in bed with them, because she ends up going and hanging out with the guy, and then they end up making out later, and it's like heavily implied. But like, her job as well as what she did physically in the movie are the same thing. They're in bed together. I thought that was really smart, and I didn't think about that until later on.
Yeah.
I also really liked, and I guess this is more of a scene or more of a quote than a scene, but I like when our guy Bale comes back in, and the two guys come to his office pissed off that he's put all their money in, and he's like, "You flew all the way down here just to tell me that?" And they have like this back and forth that I thought was really, really fun and really showed Bale's range in the movie.
Yeah.
I wish he was in it a little bit more, though. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, that was one. Maybe looking back, we picked this for Steve Carell instead.
Right.
It was still a good movie, but he really wasn't in as much as I was expecting him to be. He did very well, but I think it was a Steve Carell movie.
For the level of importance that he is, because he basically knocks all this into motion.
Yeah.
I mean, it even tells you that on the poster for the movie. His arrow is the one who leads the way for all the other arrows to keep moving.
Yep.
But
I wonder if, with how boring of a person he is, maybe that's why.
Maybe. I was listening to an interview with Hollywood Reporter, I believe. If you guys want to check it out, they have really good YouTube videos about this movie, and they had like a 40-minute one where everybody but Brad Pitt was basically there. The director, the writer of the book, Carell, Gosling, and our guy were all there, and they were talking it up. And he said that he went to meet with him in real life and just talked to him for an hour, kind of get his mannerisms down, figure him out a little bit. And he ended up staying there for like 9 hours. He went there in the morning and stayed there until it was dark outside. He said the guy was fascinating, and he really enjoyed his company and his time. And it kind of sucks for me to see the movie and only see Bale in it for, I don't know, 20 minutes tops. Yeah. And he's never on screen with any other big name actor at any point in time. He's always alone, which if he wasn't with him in real life, then whatever. But also, like, he spent so much time with this guy. I really wish I could have saw a little bit more character acting out of Bale.
Yeah. But I think it's a testament, because he's the type of person that he's like, if I've got 20 minutes of screen time, I'm going to make the 20 minutes count.
Right.
So, I mean, like you said, he met with the guy, the real guy. And he dove into character. He was like, I need your cargo shorts and your t-shirt. And I'm going to wear all of that. And he said he wanted him to come to the premiere to see if the guy was going to punch him in the face or not.
Yeah. He said he wanted to watch it that night together.
Yeah.
They got his eye down, Pat. Like, you could tell that.
Sure did.
Wow. That was good.
Sure did. Yeah, that was a really fun movie. I'm glad that you picked that, Tanner.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Ford versus Ferrari, but we'll get there someday.
I will say,
with
though,
The Fighter.
Yeah, that's it. That's also good. I would say for this one, though, I'm glad you picked it just for the fact that I saw Steve Carell in it, because this might turn into one of my favorite Steve Carell movies.
So he's never been – he's only normally comedy. So seeing his – like, he did very well in this movie.
Yeah, and that's what my favorite scene is, actually, with Steve Carell after Vegas, after he talks to that guy, and then he goes back and calls his wife and sits with his wife and just compresses the whole thing. And it's like, I think that's my favorite scene.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I thought the whole cast did a good job. I'm always up to see Brad Pitt in anything too. And I think in most Brad Pitt movies, he's kind of just being himself, but I'd watch 2 hours of Brad Pitt just being himself. So I thought the whole cast was fun. I thought the movie was pretty good. You have any last thoughts on your movie, Tanner? Or you want to move on to Dark Knight?
No, we're good. Let's move on.
Okay, I'm excited to talk about the Dark Knight. I guess before we even jump into it, I should just come right out and say this movie is not to get too silly, because this movie came out right at the perfect age for me when I was just kind of watching dumb movies and just kind of filling my time with Mr. Deeds and Anchorman and just silly movies that didn't really amount to much. And I started watching more serious movies, and this movie really hit home for me, and it's still one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie, depending on my mood, of all time, with some of the best character acting too, with Heath Ledger, which I'm sure we'll get to. I mean, for me, I can't say enough good things about it. How do you guys feel about it?
Shoot, this came out. When
2008.
did this come out? 2008.
Yep.
Man, I remember the first time I watched it, which, you're kind of back off of other ones too, but like I've seen a lot of other Batmans before, if you're just kind of talking about that Batman train.
Right.
And this was by far the best one. I always remember, like, when they all came out, I'd always want to come back and just watch this one. Didn't care too much for the first one, didn't care for the other one. Like this one was pretty good. So, I mean, that's just how I felt about it in general, which I guess, that was without really analyzing it. So.
Well, I'll jump in too, since we brought up 2008 before. Tanner, you tell us. I mean, this really kicked off hero movies in a big way. I know we've seen other ones in the past. We've had multiple iterations of Batman before. We've seen people do it well in a cartoon way and in a real life way. But as far as making $1 billion off of one movie, 2008 changed everything, because not only did this movie come out in 2008, but Iron Man came out. Iron Man 1 came out in 2008. And then everything switched gears after that. And after that, people realized that you can make $1 billion with a B dollars off of an action movie after a comic book movie, and also get critical acclaim. And that changed everything from box office success to directors taking roles like that and not thinking as career suicide, to the Academy Awards taking those kind of movies more seriously. So, I mean, I think this movie is going to go down as a game changer, not only because of its ability and how it carries itself on the screen, but also what it did off the screen.
Yeah, most actors, if they get a superhero role, they're going to keep that role for years. That's going to be what they're known by now. So, so for me, I've never been a huge superhero guy. I watched the Spider-Mans in the early 2000s.
Right.
But other than that, I never really have. So here and there, obviously. I think I'd seen this once, but honestly, I don't remember it. Watching it back, I enjoyed it. I liked watching the Joker do his magic on there. I liked Bale, and how he was able to portray almost two different people. I had recently watched the new Joker movie, and I was kind of comparing and contrasting the two, and things like that. So I don't even mean the actors and stuff, but I mean their stories and how, this Joker, the recent Joker, kind of talks about how he became the Joker.
Right.
The Dark Knight, it's actually Joker doing his thing. So
right. Christopher Nolan made a point and drew a line in the sand, saying specifically, I'm not telling you his origin story. Everyone's heard it. It's different every time. I'm not wasting screen time, which was good because the movie's 2.5 hours long. So don't do 20 more minutes on the origin of Joker. We all have heard some iteration of it. He actually changed it too, because like you said, if not watching a lot of movies or not reading comic books, his facial scarring isn't from knives. It's from chemical burns. In comic books, but he did that on purpose. One, because he's so infatuated with knives in the movie, but also because it makes his story even more ambiguous. Yeah. Who knows how he got it? And they even go out of their way to make it two different stories up when he's talking to two different people. And he basically just picks a story in his mind that he thinks will freak him out more. He grabs a woman and tells her a story about his wife. So then she can kind of be in those shoes and get even more freaked out. And I think, I think Nolan made that point pretty clear.
And I noticed that too. And not to give any spoilers on the newest Joker movie, but I think you talked before about how he goes into his neighbor's house and he thinks they're like in a relationship and they're not at all. and then you look at this movie and he's talking about his wife, kind of that kind of thing to me with his mental illness playing into all that. It's probably way out in left field, but I kind of took that into consideration.
No, and I don't think it is at all. And I'll actually go another step further on the actors and not just the movies. When you look at Heath Ledger, and I don't want to spend my Christian Bale podcast on Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger needs his own room to breathe. He's been in some great movies on his own. But just to kind of cap that off where we are, prior to this movie, he's been in things that are great, and he's never felt like a true character actor, and he skipped all of the steps and went to Joaquin Phoenix's level. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is the first name that you think of, or one of the first names you think of when you think of character acting. And he got on that same wavelength with him in 2008, like this.
Yeah.
Because right before this, the last big movie he made was Brokeback Mountain, which essentially he's very stoic. He doesn't show his emotions because he's scared of being, his life being changed by The Secret coming out. And then as the movie progresses, he kind of has this explosion of emotions at the end. It's actually the exact opposite in this movie. And it shows how much range Heath Ledger has, because he's just wild. He's a wild animal, but at the same time, he's extremely calculated throughout this whole movie. And it's you can't watch this movie without just some level of disappointment that we didn't get to see his true peak of his career, because I think we were right there at it. He just made Brokeback Mountain. He just made this. He was on top of the world. Who knows what he would have done if he hadn't have died.
Yep.
Now, how much of the movie was Heath Ledger, and how much was the double? Because I know he didn't do the whole thing.
I thought they.
I think he did a vast majority of it, but there might be little tidbits in there.
I thought they just digitally inputted him or something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I thought he died mid filming for it, so I didn't know how much.
He died. I think he died January the year the movie came out. So I think majority of it was filmed already. But I think there was a little bit of issue. The bigger problem was he was already in a movie. So like they finished filming The Dark Knight, and then he was in another movie. I can't remember the name.
It's like it had something to do with like magic or like carnies or something.
And that movie, he was basically not in at all. They started filming it with him, and then he died in January, and they basically had to fill the void, keep everything that had him in it, and then just try to get through the movie without anybody noticing.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the name of that movie. I don't remember it being overly good, but I don't know. But I wanted to touch base with him because he's so crucial and he's so fucking good in this movie.
Yep.
So, but all right, before we jump around, I'll just go straight into quotes. And like I told you guys before we started, basically every single sentence in this movie is a quote to some degree, especially because it's rooted in comic books where everything you say does have to be concise. So,
Sure.
I don't know. To start with a Christian Bale quote, he said, sometimes the truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people deserve more. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded, which I thought was pretty cool. That was right before the lead up of the two ships and people having to basically decide on whether or not to be evil. Dent saying you can either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. That's the one everybody quotes on the internet still.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's probably the winner before we even say which one we like, because it's just ran into the ground. Alfred telling the story about the burning forest and him saying some men just like to watch the world burn. Joker, madness, is like gravity. All you need is a little push, which is my favorite one. It's just insanity at its peak, hanging upside down off that building. And then him getting ready to kill one of the gang boss leaders, and he goes up with a knife, and he says, the story about his dad cutting his face and all that stuff. And then the last "Why so serious?" He's like, "Why so serious?" And like that one just hits home. And like the first time I watched that, I remember chills going all the way up my back. And I think that quote is just amazing. Is there any quotes that you guys remember from the movie that you want to point out as better than most?
I don't know about better than most, but I like when Harvey's in the courtroom and he's got the mob guy there, and they pull the gun on him. He takes the gun and punches a dude in the face. And he tells the mob boss, "If you're gonna kill me, don't buy a Chinese gun, buy American."
I know, he takes it apart on him and everything. That was a huge flex. He's like, wait, I'm not done with my witness, and everybody's cheering. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty good stuff.
I think Weiss was serious though. Was I do remember when this came out and that was on billboards and that was,
on posters. Yeah.
Yeah, that was huge. I think that's probably my favorite quote.
Part of the reason why they did that too is because people were nervous that Heath Ledger wasn't going to be good, because he wasn't at that level yet, and they were getting some level of criticism. Because you're trying to replace Jack Nicholson here. You're not just replacing anybody.
Right.
So he was already getting a little bit of hate when they put the cast out. So they decided with all of the trailers and all of the posters to make sure it was a little bit wrapped around him to kind of ensure people, listen, it's not bad. Like if you listen to the first trailer they put out, he's in every line. No one says anything but him.
Right.
So they're really trying to hammer home, no, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, just the mentally insane aspect of it. He's got his why so serious?
Yeah. Feeling the scars with his tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the intensity that he brought. Is there any quotes you can think of, Zach?
Yeah, I liked it. The scene with Gordon where they're like, "Hey, I never said thank you," and he's like, "And you'll never have to."
Yeah,
I like that one. It's just kind of like a law enforcement type of quote or something.
Sure. And one more thing, before I forget, Michael Caine was asked about Ledger doing Joker before the movie started, and he actually came out and said that he thought it was a bad idea, and that he didn't think it was possible for not only him but anybody to do a better job than Jack. And he said that he quickly realized how wrong he was, because the first scene that he went and had to do one with the Joker, he was so intimidating and so insane looking, he forgot his lines, and they had to do the whole scene again because he just stood there and just lost it. And I believe him. I about lose it watching it on TV. So
yeah.
Well, just jump into the scenes too. Then I'll lead off with my favorite one, the hospital scene. And this includes the conversation with Dent, which turns him basically from Dent into Two-Face. I thought that was obviously important for the movie, but also it was a huge flex for the Joker, because every single scene he's in is just every single sentence he says is just so well said and timed, and you kind of buy it. I mean, I've seen it enough times now that part of me is like, is Harvey Dent really buying this? But the first few times I watched this, I definitely bought in the same way that he did. So I like that all the way up until he walks out and the clicker's not working and he's trying to blow it up. That was actually improvised because the clicker didn't work in real life. And then when the clicker didn't work, they realized they only have one take because they really are blowing up a freaking building.
Right.
So he's sitting there clicking it and just being jokery, and it worked. And of course we get that great scene, but I thought that was another Ledger nod that he can keep in character when something doesn't work like that.
Right.
Social experiment boat scene I thought was hugely impactful for obvious reasons. It shows that humanity does have some glimmer of hope, and that we're not just going to blow up other people to save ourselves. And that was important for obvious reasons.
Have you ever seen Friday?
No, I haven't. No.
Debo is the bad guy out on the block, and they had Debo, this 6'5", just intimidating dude.
Right.
He's the one that pulled it, the clicker or whatever, and he threw it out the window.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting there like, Debo!
And a little side thing for that, long time ago, I was hanging out with your brother Nick, and he left some DVDs over at my house, and one of them was Friday, and I was like, oh, I'll watch that. He's quoted it or whatever. I'll throw it in, and I threw it in. It was a blank CD. It was a burned CD. I threw it in. It was Borat. It was the first time I watched Borat. I got about 5 minutes into the movie, and I was like, I don't think this is Friday.
Friday in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, in Kazakhstan. So get back on the scenes. The scene of Joker hanging upside down is pretty iconic. And I really like, and I think it's underrated, the bank robbing scene at the beginning. Have either one of you guys seen the movie Heat?
Mm-mm.
It's an old bank robbing heist movie from like I don't remember the time frame. I don't want to be wrong, but they do a lot of homages to it, like killing each other as they're doing it and that kind of thing. There is very clear connections to that movie, and I thought that was pretty cool too. And then my fifth and one of my favorites is him flipping the 16-wheeler over. I thought that was pretty awesome for obvious reasons. And then when he turns around to run him over and then he can't do it, I think that's obviously pretty cool too, because that's a point in time where they both kind of want it back, because if he would have killed him, this whole thing would be over, but then he would have given in to the Joker, because that's all the Joker wants, is to take the most stoic person and bring him back down to everybody else's level. Yep. And the second Joker dies, he's got what he wanted. So, Joker wins and loses if he hits him. But at the same time, if Batman will just put down his weird moral code for 5 seconds and actually take care of the Joker properly, we wouldn't have more people dying every day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty impactful. What other scenes you guys like?
I was going to say the boat scene. I like the social experiment thing. It's kind of like the pinnacle,
Yeah, I try to think about myself in that situation, and you could sit there and say, well, my family's on this boat, so let's kill the other boat, because to me, my family's more important. But at the same time, you're taking a life. And
a lot of lives.
Yeah, that's, you hear, well, they had their chance. Well, they're still people, even though they're prisoners.
Yeah. And I mean, like, how, they're not all like murderers. You don't know what they did.
Tax fraud. They didn't.
Yeah, you got like six. You got like 6 people who were on The Big Short on there, and they're like, shit. Yeah, I think.
Damn you, Bale. Yeah. One of my scenes, I kind of, I guess, question it a little bit, is when, so Two-Face is about to kill the, who is it? The cop, the hot top cop, whatever you want to call him.
Mm-hmm.
About to kill his family or whatever. He ends up dying, and then they still present him as like a hero.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that was a pretty big scene. Why? Can you kind of explain maybe why they did that? Why would they portray him as a hero? I know he almost killed the dude's family out of rage.
I guess I missed part of the question. I guess I'm a little confused. Can you repeat that?
So he's about to kill.
Who are we talking about?
Two-Face.
Okay.
So he's about to kill the top cop's family rather.
Oh, right. He's taking his son. He wants to kill the boy.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, you're wondering why they want to portray him as a hero still.
Yep. Yeah.
Because no one knows him as Two-Face. Everyone knows him as Harvey Dent, and he like he was for the first 45 minutes of the movie. He's optimistic. He's the glimmer of hope that Gotham needs and Gotham deserves, and blah blah blah. And the reason why they want to save his image is because no one knows he's done these evil things yet, and they want to make sure that he dies a hero, so everyone can feel safer. If they realize that the one unsung white knight hero of the whole city went bad and killed 6 people, who are you going to trust?
Gotcha.
Because it's not good enough to just give it to Batman again. Everybody knows they can trust Batman. They need a suit and tie that isn't corrupt. Right. And even though he did get corrupted, it's more important to reflect him as a hero than it is to let him die a villain.
Right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I also think this was brave for Nolan to not only completely nail one villain, but also bring in a second one and kill him in the same movie, and it didn't feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, you could do that 10 times and it would only work that one time.
Right.
That's crazy.
Definitely.
I mean, and whenever we do come back and we start doing directors, I mean, this has got to be a Nolan. At the very least, we got to reference this movie again, because I think he hits it out of the park with this movie, along with everybody else. I think this movie, for what they were trying to do and what the point of the movie is, it was perfect. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie compared to everything else, but what they set out to do, it went as nearly as perfect as you can do.
Definitely. Yeah, this is definitely a good movie.
Yeah, I really love it. There's some little quibbles, I guess. I don't really know. I get the point of the Chinese businessman, but I don't know why he needed to be a Chinese businessman. Why couldn't he be a regular businessman? I feel like they were almost just kind of like, hey, we don't want them to ask too many questions about where this guy keeps his money and stuff. Let's just make him go across the ocean. Let's just make him a somebody who seems suspicious and different, so we don't ask too many questions.
Well, I thought,
it just seemed weird.
Maybe they're saying you're not going to outrun Batman. You can't. You're on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter.
Right. Which will be a litigation nightmare after all this is over. Like, how are you going to arrest somebody by taking him out of a country and taking him back?
Yeah.
Because he was always there. He was
right. He never left.
He never left.
Never left.
Batman is not in the Constitution, all right? So that doesn't count.
Right. They're going to be like, can you explain why the side of his skyscraper is blowing up then? I guess. So. Wow.
This is not Mythbusters, so that's not our job here.
Yeah, we don't have to answer all the questions. But yeah, I guess we should probably, now that we've talked about this movie for 25 minutes, turn around and talk about Christian Bale. Do you guys think that this is Christian Bale's apex?
Zack?
I'll start by saying
Zack, we're going to you.
I'll start by saying that this is by far, obviously, his probably best movie that he's going to be.
It's his most popular movie.
Most popular movie, yeah. And that's saying a lot, too, just with the fact that it's Batman and how many other Batman movies there are with a lot of other, big people in it. Heck, freaking, you've had George Clooney play Batman. So, obviously, that one's nowhere near comparable to this.
Right.
But I'd say this is his apex. I mean, the amount of performance that you have to put into it, and it's required from an actor. On all parts, really. I mean, everybody probably contributed to that, to the fact that the movie was so successful.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie, regardless of who's in it, the Joker, whoever, Heath Ledger, anybody, it starts with him, and he has to maintain either consistent base of acting or increase it a little bit in order to make the movie successful. The movie obviously was successful, like you pointed out, and I don't think someone could have an apex in a movie that's not successful. So I say this is apex.
Tanner?
So I think this is a great movie, all around. I like The Prestige better for him.
He is very good in it.
I think The Prestige, first time watching it, very high on my list now of movies.
Love that movie.
This movie didn't really change on my list. I've always thought, from what I can remember, that this movie was a pretty damn good movie. I don't think it is. I think The Prestige is his underrated movie, maybe, if you want to call it that.
I think you're right.
Oh, yeah.
If you had to label one of his movies as quote-unquote underrated, I think that or The Fighter would probably be the underrated movies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, I like to ramble about everything. This is yes and no to me. Yes, this is his apex of being a movie star.
Yeah.
He was a household name at this point in time.
Yeah.
He might have not been prior to this to everyone, but from 6 to 60, you knew who he was after this movie. So for a career, this is his apex.
Sure.
But for his best performance, I still think it has to be a movie with a little bit more of him in it, a little bit more range of him in it. And I'm still going to go back to American Psycho. As actual talent, as actual range and acting ability.
So not best movie.
American Psycho.
So not best movie, but best change of who, like, he was acting.
Right. For the art, I guess, in quotations, because I don't want to sound like a jackass.
Right.
The quotations art of acting, I think he's probably, in my opinion, the best in American Psycho. But I think for his movie stardom, his success as a person, and his ability to lead a movie of that caliber, it is The Dark Knight. So I'm kind of yes and knowing it.
No, I
mean, you tie it all together. I mean, honestly, I think we picked great movies to really talk about Christian Bale. Right. The Prestige, I think it's a great performance, great movie, underrated. I agree with you there, Tanner. American Psycho, it kind of sets aside, like, he starts to build his range of, right, like, here's where I can act, and then I can show you where I can go somewhere else. And so you can take him in maybe some of those movies where he shared some of the spotlight with other people, or it's just not as, like, not the normal realm of movie to watch, like American Psycho.
Right.
And then you can take him in. I mean, even The Big Short is a good show that, like, hey, no matter what, I'm gonna put in 100% effort, and I'm gonna play a role even if I'm on screen for 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
No,
you're
exactly
he can
right.
take him and place him in Batman, and he can be, like you said, a household name. And
It's the same as It's the same as American Hustle. You can put him with any cast or group. It can either be a list of all stars, and he'll do his part and be great for every moment he's on the screen, even though he has to share it, or he can be the only person in the whole damn movie and still kill it.
I want to go back to how we started when we picked him, or when we were discussing it, and we watched that video of him flipping out on a guy on set.
Right.
And that set the tone of like, oh man, this dick. Like, we're gonna watch a movie about this guy. Like, okay, whatever. Like, he's a good actor, but but now after watching all of these movies, and not even just reading about him, but just watching it and seeing his range, and seeing how he's committed. Like, I know, Tanner, you said it earlier. Like, I fully appreciate Christian Bale 100% more, and I'm gonna be on the lookout for movies with Christian Bale in it, regardless of if he's a supporting actor or the main character.
Definitely.
Yeah. And a little behind the scenes to everyone listening. We actually did a test run. We did somebody before we started filming for real, recording for real. And I felt that way he feels about Bale. I feel that way about Tom Cruise. I feel that was the one that we did, and I feel a little bit more respect, and I enjoy him more than I thought I ever would. And I'm glad that you guys feel that way about Bale, because I think I think Bale is really one of the highest level actors we have in our generation.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
So here's that little snippet of Christian Bale's freak out on his, I think it's his cameraman. Here we go.
I want you off the fucking set, you prick!
Sorry.
No, don't just be sorry. Think for 1 fucking second. What the fuck are you doing? Are you professional or not?
Yes, I am.
Do I fucking walk around and rip that? No, shut the fuck up, Bruce. Do I want? No! Don't shut me up.
I'm not shutting you up.
Am I gonna walk around and rip your fucking lights down in the middle of a scene? Then why the fuck are you walking right through? Da-da-da-da, like this in the background. What the fuck is it with you?
Oh my God, he's a crazy person.
Christian Bale.
You know what? I used to think that was made him a dick, but now I'm all aboard. Like, what was you thinking, man? He was performing art. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
You're messing up Christian Bale.
I'm Christian Bale. Oh.
All right, boys. You got anything else for him?
I think I'm all done. Zach, you got any last minute thoughts on The Dark Knight?
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
We talking about our next week guy?
Zach, who is it?
Wait, did we decide?
Robot Zach. Robot.
You probably can't hear Zach. We're gonna be going over Steve Martin.
Woo!
2 weeks. Who you guys? What movie? Steve Martin? You picking?
Well, I think next week the first 2 movies we're gonna do are mine and Zach's picks. My pick is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. We're doing more Michael Caine. I hope no one's tired of him because we're getting another one. And then Zach, you're picking
Cheaper by the Dozen.
Great movie. I've seen it 20 times, I think, just because it's always on TV, it seems like.
Family man, family movie.
There we go.
Right.
I'm gonna go opposite direction, and I'm gonna pick The Jerk for the following week.
Very exciting.
Dude, this is probably his first or second best movie. But as a group, we think his best movie is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So that'll be the final pick for us.
Right. So next week, just the first 2. Week after, Jerk and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
That's right. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Apex Mountain for this week's actor for the final week of Christian Bale. If you want, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Apex Mountain Pod. If you want to chime in on some next week's podcast, you can give us a call at 307-696-2650. If you have any input on the Steve Martin movies of next week, let us know, and maybe we'll get you in on the podcast. We hope you come back next week, and thanks again for stopping by, fellas.
Bye.
See ya.